Good day, Doctor and my fellow friends. Today, my group members and I will discuss Chapter 3, Important Managerial Issues. Before we start our presentation, I would like to introduce my group members. I am FANG YING and my group members are Lim Jia-yi, Lo Wei-ling, Ro Tong Li, ELAINE Wong Yi-lin, Ng Chi-chi, Go Hui-ying, EZEKIEL Wong King-ong, and Tiang Nga-li. We will discuss 5 questions, 10 points of summary, and a case application. The first question is, how does the concept of a global village affect organizations and managers? Before we proceed to the answer, I would like to explain the meaning of global village. Global village is a boundaryless world where goods and services are produced and marketed worldwide. Due to the global village, organizations and managers must now be more sensitive of the changing environment, understand cultural aspects, and be prepared with a variety of approaches that they may or may not be familiar with. Through Global Village, organizations and managers are allowed to sell their products with the following approaches. The first one is global sourcing. Organizations and managers purchase materials or labor from around the world, wherever it is cheapest to lower the cost and be more competitive. For example, Starbucks buys its coffee from Latin America because of its consistent taste and quality. Moving on to the next point, which is exporting and importing. Exporting is making products domestically and selling them abroad, whereas importing is acquiring products made abroad and selling them domestically. Both usually entail minimal investment and risk, which is why many small businesses often use these approaches to doing business globally. The next point is licensing. It is a contract whereby one organization offers another the right to manufacture or sell its product using its technology or product specification in return for a fee. Examples of licensing include a company using the design of a popular character such as Mickey Mouse on their products. The next point is franchising. It is an agreement in which organization gives another organization the right for a fee to use its name and operating method. For example, the organizations that using franchising method is Domino Pizza. Licensing and franchising might look the same, but there is a difference between them, which is licensing is usually used by manufacturing organizations that make or sell another company's product, while franchising is usually used by service organizations that want to use another company's name and operating methods. Next is Global Strategic Alliance. It is a partnership between an organization and foreign company partners in which both share resources and knowledge in developing new products or building production facilities. For example, Apple Pay and MasterCard. When Apple Pay wanted to release the Apple Pay system, MasterCard was the first company to partner with Apple and support their technology. So, when Apple Pay launched, only MasterCard customers could pair their card with an iPhone and make payments without having their physical cards with them. Next is joint venture. It is a specific type of strategic alliance in which the partners agree to form a separate and independent organization for some business purpose. Sony and Ericsson is a good example of a joint venture as they join hands to manufacture smartphones and gadgets. Lastly is foreign subsidiary. It is a direct investment in a foreign country that involves setting up a separate and independent facility or office. This subsidiary can be managed as a multi-domestic organization or as a global organization. That's all from me. Thank you. I will pass the next to Lim Jia-yi.
Thanks Fang Ying for answering question 1. Now I'll be continue to discuss question 2, which is how society's expectations are influencing managers and organizations. What does society expect from organizations and managers? Let me show you an example. Tom Shoes has a unique idea to promote social responsibility. So for each pair of shoes it sells, it will donate a pair to a child in need. Simple to say, society are expect that organizations and managers are to be responsible, ethical, and giving something back to the society. And what is the meaning of social responsibility? It refers to a business intention beyond its legal and economic obligation to do the right things and act in a way that are good for society. Also, social obligations are those activities that a business firm engage in order to meet certain economic and legal responsibilities. Next, social responsiveness is a characteristic that a business firm engage in social action in response to some popular social need. After knowing about the meaning of social responsibility, there's another question. Should organizations be socially involved? The importance of corporate social responsibility surfaced since 1960, when social activists questioned the singular economic objective of business. So even today, good argument can be made, such as long-run profit, better environment, public expectation to support an organization be socially involved. But there are also against such as costly, lack of skill, and so on that against business being socially responsible. When an organization be socially involved, managers regularly confront decisions that have a dimension of social responsibility, such as philanthropy, pricing, employee relation, resource conservation, product quality, also doing business in countries with oppressive government. So to address these issues, managers may reconsider the packaging design, recyclability of product, environmental safety practice, outsourcing decisions, foreign supplier practice, and also reconsider the employee policies. Next, does social involvement affect economic performance? Numerous studies have examined this issue. Although most found a small positive relationship between social involvement and economic performance, but no generalizable conclusion can be made because these studies have shown that the relationship is affected by various contextual factors such as firm size, industry, economic conditions, and also affected by regulatory environment. Other researchers have questioned causation if a study showed that social involvement and economic performance were positively related. This didn't necessarily mean that social involvement caused higher economic performance. It just could simply mean that high profits afforded companies the luxury of being social involved. Despite all this concern and mixed empirical findings, after much analysis, researchers have concluded the managers can afford to be and should be socially responsible. Lastly, let us have a look at the effect of society expectation of the managers and organization. Organizations and managers are now even more obliged to manage in terms of sustainability and environmental responsibility. They are turning their responsibility not just to managing in an efficient and effective way, but also responding strategically to a wide range of environmental and societal challenges. For example, Walmart is making informed business decisions based on throughout and ongoing communication with various stakeholders, understanding their requirements and factoring economic, environmental, and social aspects into how they pursue their business goals. In short, managers and organizations are now more care about the society and environment. When they're making a decision, they will consider different dimensions to protect our society and also environment. That's all for me, thank you. I will now pass to Chi to answer question 3.
Thank you, Ruby, for explaining the effects of society's expectation on managers and organizations. Now I shall continue with the question, should managers be paracalistic? A tendency to force others to view the world from only one perspective or through a narrow filter when local needs and goals are viewed as more important than the broader objectives and outcomes is what we call paracalism. The paracal manager will attempt to implement his organizational and personal culture into the decision-making process. From where I'm standing, managers should not hold the value of paracalism. I believe that most of the company will not encourage managers to be paracalistic due to the fact that the globalization of the markets. In other words, organizations are functioning internationally and gaining worldwide influence. Companies that are having paracalistic characteristics run the danger of losing a competitive edge, allowing other companies to seize untapped market opportunities. Hence, competitors will take over new opportunities in the global marketplace. A business that takes parochialism as a cultural mindset might hinder growth, profitability, synergy, and ultimately success. If we ignore the diversity and cultures of other nations, our company's reputation could suffer. Decisions done irrationally may have an impact on our company's performance. External connections with suppliers, business partners, distributors, or significant clients are also a management asset. If managers are unable to formulate rules that support cultural norms, our organizations will lose its credibility and success cannot be achieved. Last but not least, managers that are parochialistic might discourage and suppress the employees. Because decisions are only based on managers' opinions and experiences, employees are not involved in their work. Proposals and suggestions they gave might be denied by the parochial manager. After working for the company, they do not experience any sense of accomplishment. The sensation of being undervalued and the absence of development opportunities may be the root of demotivation. But no worries, by valuing the cultural diversity of the firm's resources, managers should approach the organization as a synergistic one. The manager needs to receive training and education about the host nation's culture in order to accomplish this. So those are the reasons why managers should not be parochialistic. Thank you, that's all from me. I shall pass the floor to the next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is EZEKIEL Wong with matrix number 22004124. My question is question 4. What are the managerial implications of Hofstede research on cultural environments? And what about the group study? Before we discuss the question, we must have a better understanding of what is culture. So culture is the unique way of people collectively act and are taught in their environment from their children. And it's also the ideas, the custom, and social behaviors of a particular group of people or society. So let's have a look at the Hofstede's research. Hofstede is actually short for Great Hofstede, a famous Dutch social psychologist. Hofstede's research on cultural environment mainly revolves around 5 major dimensions. The 5th dimension is 1. Power distance, 2. Uncertainty avoidance, 3. Long-term versus short-term orientation, 4th. Individualism and collectivism, 5th. Achievement versus nurturing. So, what are the impacts of Hofstede's research on cultural environments? Hofstede's research helps managers study a new culture before entering the market or nation. A cultural difference can greatly influence the way a company manages in a new country. With this study, managers can analyze a culture from different dimensions mentioned above. The dimension can also be used to address differences in individuals in different cultures, and it can be crucial as an indicator to motivate them in the workspace. So after we talk about the implication of Hofstede's research on cultural environment, let's have a look of the group study. So what is it? Even though Hofstede's research has provided an essential framework for differentiating among cultures, the data is now outdated and needs refinement. Another more recent and modern research is the group study. The group study confirms that the rationality and logic of Hofstede's dimension and extend it to rather replace it. Group's additional dimensions provide a modern and updated way to measure the cultural differences of many countries.
Thank you, Ezekiel. My name is Ling, and now I will discuss the question 5, which is how may the cultural difference in the globe dimension affect how manager in these 4 aspects? For information, this question is related with globe cultural dimension. Actually, we have 9 globe cultural dimension, which is performance orientation, uncertainty avoidance, in-group collectivism, power distance, gender egalitarianism, human orientation, institutional collectivism, future orientation, and last but not least, we have earth-safetiness. Next, this graph shows that the overview of the group study value of Japan compared to Germany. As we can see that the pink color line is stand for Japan and the red color line is stand for Germany. From the institutional collectivism aspect, we can see the pink color line is higher than the red color line. It means that the Japan is the high institutional collectivism country compared with Germany is the low institutional collectivism country. Japan is the high institutional collectivism country because they always encourage to collective distribution, resource, and action. So let's move on to the main point. I believe that institutional collectivism will affect manager in news work group. For information, institutional collectivism is encourage individual to be integrated in the group or organization. So we can categorize in the high institutional collectivism and the low institutional collectivism. In high institutional collectivism country, they more focus on critical decisions are made by group. For example, when they face some critical situation, they will discuss in a group, and the group member also will give their own ideas or solution related with the issue they face. So we can get the best decision from the group discussion. Besides that, group loyalty is encouraged. On the other hand, in low institutional collectivism country, they are more focused on critical decisions are made by individuals because the group discussion will take a long time and is also more complicated. Moreover, pursuit of individual goals is encouraged. The second point, which is I believe that future orientation can affect manager develop goals or plans. So the meaning of the future orientation is planning for the future plan. In high future orientation country, they always emphasize working for long-term success. For example, the company will set the long-term target and the manager will delivering to employee so that the employee can pay half to achieve their goals. Next one is organization tend to be flexible and adaptive. And the third one is propensity to save now for the future. In this case, the company will encourage invest for the future payoff over the immediate consumption. On the other hand, in the low future orientation country, they always prefer gratification as soon as possible. It means that they prefer to get the profit as soon as possible. The second one, organization tend to be inflexible and adaptive. The third one is propensity to spin now rather than save. Now, let's move on to the third point. I believe that performance orientation will affect manager in reward outstanding employee. For information, the meaning of performance orientation is high standard, innovation, and excellent performance are rewarded. In high performance orientation country, the more focus on value training and development. For instance, the company will provide the cost for employee to improve their technical skill and knowledge. Because of this era of technology, technical skills are needed. Second point, view formal feedback as necessary for performance improvement. So the company will view the formal feedback from the outside and to improve their productivity and performance of the employee. Third, expect direct, explicit communication. And on the other hand, in low performance orientation country, we are more focused on value society and family relationship. the company will more focus on the work-life balance. The second one is view formal feedback as judgmental and discomforting. And the last point is expect indirect or subtle communication. Last but not least, the last point is assertiveness will affect manager in deal with employee conflict. The meaning of assertiveness is individual aggressive as opposed to cooperative and unambiguously. In high assertiveness society country, they more prefer to communicate directly and unambiguously. For example, there are many conflicts about decision making in workplace, so the manager can give some suggestion or ask them to provide the evidence to support their idea, so we can get the best idea. Next, build trust on basis of calculation, value computation, success and progress. On the other hand, in low assertiveness society country, they are more prefer to communicate indirectly, build trust on basis of predictability, value cooperation and warm relationship in the workplace. Now, I will pass to the Chichi to do the summary. Thank you.
Now let's have a look at the summary points of the case application. From the case given, we know that, according to experts, by 2025, electric cars, also known as the EVs, are expected to be as affordable as gasoline-powered models. Batteries are replacing fossil fuel-driven vehicles, which need the manufacture of millions of barrels of oil per day. The rise in lithium-ion battery outputs balances out the fall in oil production, which will have major effects for oil exporting nations. Cobalt is needed to make those rechargeable batteries, and Congo is the world's top cobalt producer. Over 3/4 of all refined cobalt compounds are currently produced by Chinese businesses, who also control the initial stages of the lithium-ion battery manufacturing process. Modern Amperex Technology Limited, or CATL, has quickly risen to the top of the EV battery industry. CATL is erecting a massive of $1.3 billion battery production complex in the Chinese city of Ningde. The factory will be the biggest producer of EV batteries in the world once it is operational. CATL has clear intention to expand its operation outside of China to achieve the goal of being the largest battery maker in the world. However, at the moment, household contracts in China accounts for 99% of CATL's revenue. Foreign automakers have been among some of these. That's all the 10 points for the case given. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruotong Li. I'm going to discuss the 11th question. How does the story illustrate a global village? After browsing this article, we easily get the message that the number of electric vehicles is rising. We know that as technology continues to evolve and this internet continues to upgrade its capability, the media is becoming more and more integrated into our daily lives. We are receiving a constant flow of information from the outside world through various media, and environmental awareness is becoming a part of our daily lives. Through the internet and textbooks, we clearly perceive that the fossil energy sources are being depleted and that these fossil energy sources are not renewable. For the sake of people's survival and livelihood, scientists are working day and night to make us comfortable with renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power. In today's society, therefore, the number of electric vehicles is increasing. Perhaps in the future, electrical vehicles will replace ordinary fuel cars. But both electric vehicles and the electronic products we use in our lives cannot be produced without rechargeable batteries, and cobalt is needed to produce such batteries. From the article, we know that the largest producer of cobalt in the world today is Congo. Let's get back to the topic. How does the story illustrate a global village? In terms of economic development, a global village refers to the interdependence between countries in terms of economic development and production. The article mentions that although CATL produces lithium batteries, The production of precious metals such as cobalt is the strength of Congo. Therefore, countries and regions are increasingly linked to each other by complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Marshall McLuhan mentioned in his book, Understanding Media, The Extension of Man, the global village has promoted the process of world economy integration. The interdependence and the close relationship between countries have been greatly enhanced, and the form of social structural elements such as economy, society, and culture has undergone unprecedented changes. The concept of global village connotes the reduction of spatial scale brought about by technological change. People can work together and support each other even if they're in different countries, continents, and hemispheres. So the whole planet is becoming villagized in terms of information, awareness, economic, and production. It's a good thing that we are becoming more united and helping each other.
Hi everyone, my name is Elaine and I'm going to discuss question 3-12. The question given is, using Exhibit 3-1, what approach is China's CATL using to go global? Explain your choices. Before answering this question, let me briefly introduce about what is CATL for a better understanding of this question. CATL is the abbreviation of Contemporary Amperex Technology Co. Limited. CATL is actually a Chinese battery manufacturer and technology company owned by China and founded in 2011. Next, CATL is recognized as a recent global leader of a new energy innovative technology. Besides, CATL always aimed to provide premium solutions for new energy applications worldwide. Lastly, specialization of CATL includes manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles, energy storage systems, as well as battery management systems. After introducing about CATL, now let's continue our question. What approach is China's CATL using to go global? Explain your choices. First, we all know that CATL objective is to become the world's leader in the battery manufacturing industry. Therefore, we will be discussing what approaches has CATL used to ensure its operations go globally. For instance, CATL has built its factory in Nevada for accomplishing its objectives. Besides, CATL also had acquired a contract manufacturer in Finland. Last, CATL also had increases the number of offices in Paris and facilities in Finland. Recently, we have noticed that the fuel prices are rising, right? This has made electric vehicles a more attractive option than ever. According to Canalys study, it shows that electric vehicles have continued to grow in demand, with over 4.2 million vehicles sold worldwide in the first half of year 2022 and 63% growth from the first half of year 2021. According to experts, batteries will be replacing fossil fuel vehicles in the future, as fossil fuels is known as non-renewable resources and they need manufacture of millions of barrels of oil a day. Not only that, clean energy and improved performance also drive the people around the world to switch to electric cars. In order to drive cars without incurring high expenditures on oil products, the customers around the world started to shift their focus on electric vehicles. As a result, the operation of CATL started to grow rapidly. Just like I mentioned earlier, CATL has set up its factory and plant in Nevada in order to manage the rise in demand. Moreover, CATL plans to enter the European and American market as a large number of automobile manufacturers are situated in this region. This is because this action can help them to expand its overseas manufacturing operations as they look to fend off rising competition from other global suppliers. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. My name is Tiang Ali. Now let's move on to question 13. What kind of MNC do you think CATL is? Explain your choice. Before answering the questions, Do you know what is MNC? MNC is the short form of multinational corporation. Now from the slide, we can see that there are some types of MNC, which are multi-domestic corporations, global corporations, or in the other word is standardization corporation and transnational organizations. So the question is, what is the MNC for CATL? The answer is global corporation that I have circled with the red color. There are some explanations for global corporation. From the lecture slide, we can find that global corporations is the corporation that the decisions are centralized at the home country and it's focused on cost reductions and mostly is commodities in food and medicine productions. For me, global corporation is known as a global company, which convert from Western of global, which bring the meaning of all around the world. Next, why do I think CATL is global corporations? It can be explained by its characteristics. On the slide, we can see that there are some characteristics of global corporations. First is global. Next, the size, which is a large organization with the presence of multiple countries. The next one is rich, which means that the organization have extensive supply chains, and power means that it has the ability to influence the government and markets around the world. To prove that CATL is a global corporation, we can find from the articles and some research based on its characteristics. First, CATL has expanded abroad, like in European, Germany, and North America. CATL wants to be the biggest battery producer in the world. Next, it has massive $1.3 billion battery production complex in India, which means that it is a large organization. Next, 99% of business of CATL is come from home contracts in China, which means that it's centralized in its home country. Furthermore, CATL is a manufacturing company with a supply agreement across many of the world's major OEMs in China, including BMW, Renault, Daimler, Nissan, Tesla, and Volkswagen Group. Last, it will be the largest EV battery manufacturer in the world.
Good day to you all. My name is HOOI. Question 14 is about how would Hofstede's dimensions of national culture and group findings be useful to CATL's management as it moves to Europe and eventually the United States. What is Hofstede's cultural dimension theory? Okay, just now my friend EZEKIEL have mentioned about that, and I want to add on some. Okay, Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory is a framework for cross-cultural communication developed by Georg Hofstede. It shows the effects of a society's culture on the value of its members and how these values relate to behavior, using a structure derived from factor analysis. Another that global leadership and organizational behavior effectiveness. In short term, we call GLOBE, and GLOBE similar to Hofstede's. The GLOBE researchers uncover several cultural dimensions. There are 5 dimensions that are similar to Hofstede's dimensions, but there are 2 dimensions are not similar, which are performance orientation and human orientation. Okay, here are 5 Hofstede dimensions of national culture that my friend EZEKIEL has mentioned before, and later I will apply in my case application. Okay, why Hofstede's framework is useful for CATL's management? Hofstede's framework is especially useful because it provides important information about differences between countries and how to manage such differences. Recent reviews of research have shown the utility of host status framework for a wide variety of managerial activities, such as change management, conflict management, leadership, negotiation, and work-related attitudes. Okay, this is the table of host status cultural dimensions theory at Europe, United States, and China. Okay, for the Europe side, Europe countries have 44 countries, right? So there's too much. So I will focus on Paris, France, because CATUS have their office at Paris. Okay, let us back to our questions. How would CATUS management apply host status framework and group findings? So let us see about power distance first. Power distance is the degree to which members of a society accept differences in power and authority. Chinese from China are more likely to accept that power inequality is good and acceptable. So this shows that they are high power distance. In contrast, US and European people are low power distance because their distance tend to consider that all members are equal. So, CATUS management can follow the culture of US and European people when moves to US and Europe. For instance, for the perspective of managerial authority, they can disperse authority. Managers can rely on personal experience and more consultative or collaborative forms of decision making. Okay, the next point is individualism versus collectivism. Okay, we can know that US and Europe are high levels of individualism, and in contrast, China is high levels of collectivism. CATUS management can follow the culture of US and European people when they move to US and Europe. For instance, employees can act in their own interest and high commitment to organization. Okay, uncertainty avoidance, the degree to which people in a society are comfortable with risk, uncertainty, and unpredictable situations. Okay, let us see about China and Europe. They are high uncertainty avoidance countries, but US is low uncertainty avoidance country. So CATUS management can keep their host status dimension in Europe, but need to follow the culture of US people when moves to US. For example, for the perspective of relationship with the companies, for the high uncertainty avoidance countries, there are strong loyalty to employing organizations and employment are long-term in durations. However, for the low uncertainty avoidance countries, there are weak loyalty to companies and shorter average duration of employment. Okay, the next point is achievement versus nurturing. China and US are strong in achievement, but Europe is weak in achievement, which is nurturing. CATUS management can follow the culture of US people, like focusing on quantity of life, but for the European people, they can keep more focus on the quality of life. Last but not least, long-term versus short-term orientation. China is long-term orientation, but US and Europe are short-term orientation. CATUS management can follow the culture of US and European people, such as look to the future and value thrift and persistence.
Now, let me answer the question 15. A case is given. As much as 14% of the cobalt output in Congo comes from mining done by crucials of freelancers. US and European companies are really of doing business with cobalt suppliers who buy from these crucials because some of the miners are children. These children rarely wear safety masks or other safety equipment and can suffer crippling injuries doing this dangerous job. And the question is, does the response by these companies fall under the classical view of social responsibility or the social economic view of the social responsibility? Explain. My answer is the response by these companies fall under the social economic view of social responsibility. Because social economic view is the view that management's social responsibility goes beyond making profits and includes protecting and improving society's welfare. From the cases provided, we noticed that the US and European companies are cautious or wary about doing business with corporate suppliers who buy from crusaders, freelancers, because some of minors are children who are forced into the hazardous occupation without any safety equipment. This shows that these companies are not just concerned about making money, but also if they are doing so in an ethical manner. Therefore, the US and European companies' view is that maximizing profit is the second priority. The first priority is to protect and improve society's welfare, especially children. That's all for me. Thank you.
Let's have a look at question 15b. The question is, look at the definition of social responsibility in the chapter and discuss the ethical factor in this scenario. First of all, ethics in managing a company refers to a company's social responsiveness to certain issues. It is also known as the discipline that deals with what is right and wrong, good or bad, in terms of moral responsibility and duty. In this scenario, the industrial capitalists seem to be totally unethical. Child labor can result in physical and mental harm, in worst cases, death. Children should be treated with dignity and they also possess human rights. Instead, childhood should be spent learning knowledge and gaining social skills in schools instead of working in a minefield. The capitalist uses the children's innocence and lack of sufficient connection to money and lure them into dangerous work without thinking the welfare of their young workers and uses them like a disposable tools.
And that brings us to the end. I would like to thank you for your time and attention today. Thank you so much for your interest and attention. Feel free to ask us questions regarding our presentation.